The Star Wanderer wasn't just a ship. It was a colossal intergalactic jalopy. Decades of haphazard modifications clung to its hull like barnacles, a testament to its long and frankly questionable history. Its corridors smelled perpetually of recycled protein paste and ozone, a charming bouquet that had been Anya's constant companion since birth. Anya, you see, was a Star Wanderer native born in Hydroponics Bay 7 during a particularly nasty meteor shower. She knew every creaking bulkhead, every rattling ventilation shaft, every suspiciously sticky patch on the mess hall floor. To her, the ship wasn't just a vessel, it was home, albeit a home with a serious case of space lice. Anya herself was, well, she was Anya. Picture a lanky figure draped in repurposed engineering jumpsuits, perpetually stained with something vaguely radioactive. Her dark hair was usually pulled back in a messy bun, escaping tendrils framing a face that alternated between intense focus and utter boredom. She possessed a mind that could unravel complex astrophysics equations in her sleep, but often struggled to remember where she left her spanner. Her talents were as eclectic as the ship's crew. She could coax a dying hyperdrive back to life with a paperclip and a curse word, brew a surprisingly palatable coffee from recycled algae, and possessed an uncanny ability to predict when the ship's notoriously temperamental life support system would decide to take a nap. These skills, combined with her unique personality, had made her a legend of sorts among the Wanderer's motley crew. The Star Wanderer itself was a symphony of clanking pipes, flickering neon lights, and the low hum of overworked machinery. Gravity fluctuated without warning. Corridors twisted at illogical angles, and entire sections were rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of long-dead space rats. It was a charmingly chaotic environment, perfectly suited to nurturing a mind as wonderfully weird as Anya's. And within this metallic womb teeming with life both biological and mechanical, Anya was about to receive a message that would yank her from the familiar grime of the Star Wanderer and hurl her head first into an adventure so bizarre, so utterly illogical, that even she would have trouble believing it. The summons arrived, via a flickering comm screen, interrupting Anya's attempt to rewire a toaster into a portable gravity generator. It was an official communication from the aquatic ascendancy of Aquatica, a species she knew little about besides their penchant for overly formal greetings and a disturbing fondness for kelp-based cuisine. The message, delivered in impeccably, translated galactic standard, requested her immediate presence on Aquatica. Apparently, they believed she possessed the necessary expertise to handle a matter of utmost importance. The specifics were vague, shrouded in bureaucratic jargon, and ominous pronouncements about galactic stability. Anya squinted at the screen, a half-eaten tube of nutrient paste clutched in her hand. Utmost importance, huh? Hope it involves fixing their plumbing. The Star Wanderer could teach them a thing or two about leaky pipes. She muttered, more to the recalcitrant toaster than the Aquatics. The summons alluded to a powerful alien artifact, a device of immense potential and unknown origin. The Aquatics, in their infinite wisdom, believed Anya was the key to unlocking its secrets. Why her? She hadn't the faintest idea. Maybe they'd confused her with someone else, someone less greasy. Regardless, the orders were clear. Report to Aquatica. Post-haste. Apparently destiny, or at least the aquatic ascendancy, had decided to call. Anya sighed, tossed the nutrient paste, and resigned herself to the inevitable. Well, she thought, at least it's a change of scenery, and maybe they have decent coffee. The transport ship shuddered as it pierced Aquatica's atmosphere, a thick swirling soup of turquoise and emerald. Anya peered out the viewport, her breath fogging the glass. Below, a sprawling cityscape shimmered beneath the waves, a testament to the Aquatic's advanced technology. Towering structures of bioluminescent coral and polished metal spiraled upwards, connected by intricate networks of transparent tubes teeming with aquatic life. Aquatica itself was a sight to behold, a planet almost entirely covered in water. It had forced its inhabitants to evolve in remarkable ways. The aquatic ascendancy were a species of humanoid fish, sleek and powerful, with iridescent scales and large, intelligent eyes. Their bodies were perfectly adapted to the high-pressure environment, and their movements were fluid and graceful, even on land. Their culture, however, was anything but fluid. It was rigidly structured, governed by an intricate system of protocols and hierarchies. Every aspect of their lives, from their diet to their mating rituals, was dictated by ancient traditions and unwavering adherence to the Ascendancy's decrees. Their society was militaristic, valuing discipline, obedience, and unwavering loyalty above all else. Communication was a complex affair, relying on a combination of vocalizations, bioluminescent displays, and intricate patterns of water currents. The nuances of their language were incredibly difficult for outsiders to grasp, leading to frequent misunderstandings and diplomatic headaches. Anya suspected she was about to experience those headaches firsthand. As the transport ship docked within a massive underwater hangar, Anya braced herself. A delegation of Aquatics clad in gleaming, pressure-sealed armor awaited her arrival. Their faces were impassive, their eyes scrutinizing. The mission, whatever it was, had officially begun, and Anya had a sinking feeling it was going to be a very long journey. The aquatic delegation greeted Anya with a series of synchronized clicks and hisses, a formal greeting that sounded suspiciously like a rusty pipe system protesting. Anya, never one for formality, responded with a casual, "Hey, how's it hanging? Or floating, I guess." The lead aquatic, a towering figure named Commander Krill, tilted his head, his bioluminescent markings flickering in confusion. "Your idiom is not registered within our linguistic databanks," Krill stated, his voice a deep, resonant rumble translated by a small device attached to Anya's collar. "Please adhere to established protocols of communication." Anya shrugged. "Right. Protocols. Got it. So, what's first on the agenda? You gonna show me the Doomsday device, or are we hitting up the buffet?" Krill's eyes narrowed. The Doomsday device, as you so flippantly refer to it, is the Deep Resonance Amplifier, and sustenance will be provided at the designated hour. Following the completion of preliminary assessments, Anya stifled a yawn. "Assessments, huh? Sounds thrilling. Can we at least get this show on the road? I'm dying for a decent cup of coffee, or whatever passes for caffeine around here." The Aquatics exchanged uneasy glances. Coffee was not a concept within their highly regulated dietary regimen. Krill, visibly struggling to maintain composure, gestured towards a shimmering corridor. "This way. We shall proceed to the designated observation chamber." As they walked, Anya couldn't resist peppering Krill with questions. "So this amplifier thingy, does it like amplify deep resonances? What does that even mean? Is it going to make the ocean louder?" Krill stopped abruptly, his scales shimmering with irritation. The Deep Resonance Amplifier is a weapon of unimaginable power. Its capabilities are classified under the highest level of Ascendancy security protocols. Your levity is inappropriate. Anya raised her hands in mock surrender. Okay, serious time. Super duper dangerous weapon. Got it. Just wondering though, has anyone actually, used it? Or is it just sitting around collecting dust? Krill's response was curt. Its deployment is pending. Its power is too great to be unleashed without absolute certainty. Anya grinned. So it's a paperweight, a really shiny, intimidating paperweight. The Aquatics were beginning to wonder if they'd made a terrible mistake inviting this human aboard. Her constant sarcasm and blatant disregard for protocol were unsettling, to say the least. Was she mocking them, or was she simply oblivious? The answer, they suspected, was far more complicated and potentially far more dangerous. The observation chamber was a marvel of aquatic engineering, a massive transparent dome filled with swirling currents and advanced sensor arrays. In the center rested the Deep Resonance Amplifier, a sleek obsidian device humming with contained energy, pulsating with faint ethereal light. The Aquatics maintained a respectful distance, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Anya, however, strolled right up to it, circling the device with a critical eye. She tapped on its surface, eliciting a chorus of gasps from the Aquatics. "So," she said, "this is it, huh? The big kahuna. The thing that's gonna amplify deep resonances? She paused, looking around at the anxious faces. Anyone got a manual? Commander Krill approached cautiously. The operational parameters are far too complex for simple explication. Its use requires a deep understanding of ascendancy physics and sonic harmonics. Anya rolled her eyes. Right, sonic harmonics. Sounds like my uncle's band, so no manual. Then just gonna wing it? The Aquatics seemed genuinely horrified at the suggestion. Ignoring their distress, Anya pulled out a small multi-tool from her pocket and began fiddling with the amplifier's casing. "Don't touch that," Krill exclaimed, his voice rising in alarm. "You could destabilize the resonance matrix." Anya glanced up, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Resonance matrix, huh? Sounds like a fancy way of saying fragile. She continued tinkering undeterred. Hours passed as Anya probed, tested, and generally poked around the amplifier. The Aquatics watched with increasing anxiety, their rigid postures betraying their growing unease. Anya's methods were unconventional, to say the least. She used tools they'd never seen, asked questions they couldn't comprehend, and seemed utterly unfazed by the supposed danger of the device. As the days turned into weeks, Anya grew increasingly convinced that the Aquatics had completely misinterpreted the amplifier's purpose. It wasn't a weapon, it was something else entirely. The more she studied it, the more a nagging suspicion grew in her mind, a suspicion that was both ludicrous and strangely compelling. She decided to run a few unauthorized tests, much to the Aquatics' chagrin. She was determined to find out what this thing really did, even if it meant defying the entire Ascendancy. What if, she mused, what if all this talk of deep resonance and sonic harmonics was just a load of hooey? Anya's, let's call them unorthodox methods, weren't exactly inspiring confidence. The Aquatics exchanged worried glances whenever she so much as sneezed in the amplifier's general direction. Commander Krill in particular seemed to be developing a permanent twitch in his left gill. "Is she qualified?" Krill hissed to a nearby science officer, his voice barely above a whisper. The science officer, a nervous-looking aquatic with perpetually ink-stained tentacles, hesitated. "Technically, yes, Commander, she possesses the necessary certifications from the Star Wanderer Institute of Applied whatever." Krill's gill twitched again. "Applied whatever? Is that even a real place?" The science officer squirmed. "It's on the registry, Commander. Sort of. Under miscellaneous space debris with educational capabilities." The Aquatics were starting to form two distinct and equally unsettling theories about Anya. The first, championed by the more paranoid members of the Ascendancy, was that she was an incredibly dangerous saboteur, sent to dismantle their society from within with her bizarre tools and baffling pronouncements. After all, who would suspect someone so seemingly incompetent of being a master strategist? It was the perfect cover. The second theory, favored by the slightly more charitable, or perhaps just less imaginative, Aquatics, was that she was simply, hopelessly, utterly, irredeemably useless. A spacefaring simpleton who had somehow bluffed her way into a position of immense responsibility. This, they reasoned, was almost as terrifying as the first theory. Anya, blissfully unaware of the existential crisis she was causing, continued her experiments. She jury-rigged a series of bizarre contraptions using spare parts from the Star Wanderer, much to the horror of the aquatic engineers. Wires sparked, strange odors filled the observation chamber, and the amplifier hummed with an increasingly erratic rhythm. One day she even brought in a rubber duck, claiming it was essential for calibrating the hydro-oscillatory matrix. The Aquatics were beginning to suspect that hydro-oscillatory matrix was just something she made up to sound important. Anya ignored the mounting anxiety radiating from the Aquatics like heat off a malfunctioning reactor. She was onto something. The Deep Resonance Amplifier, despite its intimidating name and ominous pronouncements in aquatic historical texts, wasn't a weapon. Not even close. Days blurred into weeks as Anya tinkered, adjusted, and occasionally smacked the device with a wrench when it wouldn't cooperate. She pored over the alien schematics, her brow furrowed in concentration, muttering to herself about harmonic frequencies and resonant cavities. The Aquatics watched, their fins twitching as she gradually dismantled the amplifier, piece by piece, replacing components with her own cobbled-together substitutes. Then one evening, after what seemed like an eternity of tinkering, Anya straightened up, a triumphant grin spreading across her face. "Eureka!" she exclaimed, startling a nearby aquatic guard so badly he nearly fainted. "I've cracked it. This thing isn't a weapon of mass destruction, it's rather less impressive, actually." The Aquatics exchanged nervous glances. Less impressive than a weapon of mass destruction? What could possibly be less impressive? A paperweight? A rusty spork? Their imaginations ran wild with possibilities, none of them good. Anya, oblivious to their mounting dread, began fiddling with the controls. The amplifier hummed, then whirred, then began to emit a series of strange gurgling noises. "Commander." Krill gripped the edge of the observation platform, his knuckles turning white. This was it. The moment of truth. The activation of the Doomsday device. "Behold," Anya announced with a flourish. From a small nozzle on the side of the amplifier, a stream of clear liquid shot out, filling a glass she'd conveniently placed underneath. The liquid fizzed and bubbled, releasing tiny effervescent bursts of vapor. The Aquatics stared, dumbfounded. It wasn't a destructive ray. It wasn't a mind control beam. It wasn't even particularly threatening looking. "What is that?" Krill finally managed to stammer, his voice barely a croak. Anya took a sip from the glass. "Sparkling water," she said with a shrug. "Or as you Aquatics call it, the Deep Resonance." She grinned, her eyes twinkling. Turns out the Deep Resonance is just carbonation. The silence that followed Anya's announcement was deeper than the Mariana Trench. The Aquatics stared at the glass of sparkling water as if it were a venomous sea serpent, their multifaceted eyes wide with disbelief. Carbonation? This was the legendary Deep Resonance? The force that their ancestors had both feared and revered? Commander Krill, ever the pragmatist, was the first to break the silence. "Carbon-ation?" he repeated, the word sounding foreign and clumsy in his aquatic vocalizations. "Explain, in precise, quantifiable terms." Anya sighed, took another sip of her bubbly beverage, and launched into an explanation of carbon dioxide, pressure, and the peculiar human fondness for fizzy drinks. She described the joys of cracking open a cold can of soda on a hot day, the satisfying burp that followed, and the simple pleasure of watching bubbles dance in a glass. The Aquatics listened with growing confusion. Their minds, trained for millennia in the art of underwater warfare and complex hydrodynamic equations, struggled to grasp the concept of enjoyable bubbles. It defied all logic. It contradicted everything they knew about the universe. Anya, sensing their bewilderment, decided on a more direct approach. She offered the glass to Krill. "Here," she said. "Try it. It's refreshing." Krill hesitated. Accepting a drink from an alien, especially one who had just debunked their most sacred beliefs, was a violation of protocol. But curiosity, and perhaps a tiny sliver of rebellious spirit, won out. He cautiously extended a fin and took the glass. He brought the glass to his mouth equivalent, a small, puckered opening on his lower abdomen. With a delicate sip, the sparkling water flowed into his system. His eyes widened. He remained motionless for a long moment. Then, his body convulsed. Not violently, not in pain, but in a series of involuntary twitches and shudders. A low, guttural gurgle escaped his mouth equivalent. The other Aquatics gasped. Was this a sign of poisoning? An alien attack? Krill lowered the glass, his fins trembling. "What? What is this sensation?" he croaked, his voice filled with a mixture of horror and something else, something akin to delight. That, Anya said, grinning, is Bubbles, and it's about to become your new obsession. Before Krill could respond, another aquatic, driven by an irresistible urge, snatched the glass from his grasp and took a large gulp. Then another, and another. Soon, a frenzy erupted as the aquatics clamored for a taste of the strange, fizzy liquid. The Deep Resonance Amplifier, once a symbol of unimaginable power, was now just a glorified soda fountain, churning out sparkling water for a crowd of increasingly giddy aliens. The age of carbonation had begun on Aquatica. The transformation was immediate, chaotic, and utterly absurd. Highly disciplined soldiers, strategists who could calculate the trajectory of a torpedo across vast ocean trenches, devolved into beings obsessed with bubbles. They jostled each other, fins flailing, desperate for another taste of the effervescent elixir. The Deep Resonance Amplifier whirred and sputtered, struggling to keep up with the unprecedented demand. Anya, perched on a nearby crate, watched the pandemonium with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. It was like watching a school of highly trained sharks suddenly discover the joys of a kiddie pool. Commander Krill, having recovered from his initial shock, pushed his way through the crowd, his face, or rather his face area, flushed with excitement. He grabbed Anya's fin in a gesture that was probably meant to be formal but came across as more of an enthusiastic squeeze. "Human Anya," he boomed, his voice echoing through the chamber. You have saved us. You have unlocked the true potential of the deep resonance." Anya raised an eyebrow. "Saved you? From what, boredom?" Krill, oblivious to her sarcasm, continued his proclamation. "For generations we have misunderstood this gift. We thought it was a weapon, a tool of destruction. But you, in your infinite wisdom, have shown us that it is a source of delightful tingle." The other aquatics, still guzzling sparkling water, echoed his sentiments with enthusiastic gurgles and clicks. Anya was hoisted onto the shoulders of several particularly zealous soldiers who paraded her around the chamber like a conquering hero. She couldn't help but laugh. Here she was, a simple freighter rat from the Star Wanderer, being hailed as a genius for inventing sparkling water. The universe, she decided, had a rather peculiar sense of humor. And so, Anya, the girl, born on a space freighter, became a cultural icon on Aquatica. Statues were erected in her honor, depicting her, of course, holding the Deep Resonance Amplifier, that magnificent instrument of Fizz. She was invited to every state dinner, every military parade, every aquatic opera, where she was expected to explain the complex scientific principles behind bubbles. She usually just shrugged and said something about tiny, angry air molecules, which, for some reason, the aquatics found deeply profound. Life on Aquatica took a turn for the luxurious. Anya was given a palace carved from shimmering coral, attended by a staff of meticulously polite, if slightly over-enthusiastic, aquatic butlers. They anticipated her every need, whether it was a perfectly chilled kelp smoothie or a detailed report on the migratory patterns of glow squid. She even had her own personal submarine, customized with a disco ball and a karaoke machine, for those moments when she felt the need to cruise the ocean depths and belt out some classic Earth tunes. But Anya, ever the pragmatist, knew that fame was fleeting, especially when it was based on something as ultimately trivial as fizzy water. So she did what any sensible entrepreneurial space freighter girl would do. She opened a bar. Anya's Bubbles, it was called. A sleek, modern establishment built right in the heart of the capital city. The menu featured an astounding array of sparkling beverages, from classic unflavored to exotic concoctions infused with rare deep-sea flora and fauna. There was even a mystery fizz that changed daily, much to the delight and occasional horror of her clientele. The bar became the place to be seen on Aquatica. High-ranking military officials rubbed fins with socialites and artists, all united by their shared love of the bubbly stuff. Anya, of course, was always there, holding court from her favorite corner booth, dispensing witty remarks and topping off everyone's glasses. She had even managed to convince Commander Krill to loosen up a bit. He was now a regular, known for his surprisingly impressive karaoke renditions of ancient aquatic sea shanties, fueled, of course, by copious amounts of raspberry-flavored sparkling water. Years passed, and Anya remained a fixture on Aquatica, a beloved eccentric whose influence extended far beyond the realm of beverages. She had inadvertently introduced concepts like relaxation, fun, and not taking everything so darn seriously to a species that had previously known only duty, honor, and meticulously planned battle strategies. Looking back, Anya often marveled at the sheer absurdity of it all. She, a girl born on a rusty space freighter, had become a queen, not of conquest or power, but of bubbles. It just goes to show you, sometimes the most potent weapon in the universe isn't a laser cannon or a planet-destroying missile, but a little bit of fizz, and a whole lot of cultural misunderstanding